Chicago, raining, 11 at night. You're 23, standing outside a restaurant you had a real reservation for, watching the maitre d' tell you, for the second time, that they're at capacity. Behind you, two people walk up with no reservation at all and get seated inside 30 seconds, laughing about something, coats already half off before they're through the door, one of them glancing back at you without quite meaning to. In 19 years, your name will be on buildings like this one on 4 continents. Though nobody standing in this doorway tonight will ever know they were the reason why. Not tonight. Tonight you're just a 5-second read someone made through a glass door, and the read came back no. Here is how strangers treat you at every level of wealth. Level 1, $0. His name is Simon, though you don't learn that until much later. He's already looking past you at the next person in line before he finishes the sentence, clipboard against his chest like a shield. Pen already clicking against the metal clip. You don't argue. There's nothing to argue with. No rule you broke, no seat that doesn't exist, no manager to appeal to who'd side with you over him. Just a decision, made in about the time it takes to blink, that you weren't worth the table. You catch your reflection in the restaurant's dark window on the way past. The same jacket you've had since high school, a little short in the sleeves now. And you understand, for the first time in your life, exactly what he saw in 5 seconds that made the decision for him. You walk 2 blocks in the rain to the bus stop, hands jammed in your pockets, water finding its way down your collar no matter how you hunch. No umbrella, no jacket that does anything against weather like this. A woman in scrubs, coming off a shift somewhere, stops next to you for exactly as long as it takes to reach into her bag. She hands you a folded plastic poncho, the cheap drugstore kind, still in its wrapper, and keeps walking before you can get a word out, doesn't slow down, doesn't wait to be thanked, doesn't even really look at you long enough for you to remember her face later. You never see her again. You never learn her name. You keep the poncho anyway, folded first in a jacket pocket and later in a drawer, for reasons you can't explain yet, through every apartment you'll live in for the next 2 decades. You didn't need saving. You needed 5 seconds of someone deciding you weren't a problem. Level 2, $19,000. Dishwasher at a diner in the warehouse district, the kind of place with laminated menus and a counter that seats 9. Grease baked into the tile behind the register no amount of scrubbing ever quite lifts. Most mornings before your shift, you eat breakfast there. Eggs, dry toast, the cheapest coffee on the menu, and Ruth, who's run the counter longer than you've been alive, has your order memorized by the 2nd week without you ever telling her twice. She never asks what you do for work, what you're saving for, where you're headed after this. She just remembers you take your eggs over medium and refills your coffee without being asked twice, sliding the pot past you on her way to the next table. Same unhurried rhythm every single morning regardless of who's watching or what kind of night you clearly just had. A regular complains loudly one morning that you bumped his table putting down a tray, doesn't look at you once through the whole thing, talks about you like you're a piece of furniture that moved on its own and startled him. You mutter an apology to the floor. Ruth doesn't make a scene. She just tells him the kitchen's backed up today, comps his coffee, and moves on to the next table like nothing happened, wiping down the counter in the same motion. She never mentions it to you afterward. You only notice because you were standing right there with a tray in your hands, close enough to hear every word, and see her do it without once looking over to check if you'd noticed. You don't know it yet, but Ruth is going to be the only person in this whole story who never once has to relearn who you are. No matter how many times your life changes shape underneath you, no matter what the sign over the door ends up saying someday. Level 3, $54,000. Line cook now, saving towards something you can't quite name yet, applying for your first apartment on your own instead of splitting a lease with 2 other guys from the kitchen. The landlord runs your credit at a folding table in the empty unit, glances at your job title on the application, and asks, not unkindly, just flatly, like it's a box he has to check before he can move on to the next question, whether you have anyone who could co-sign, just in case. You've paid rent on time for 3 straight years at your current place, never once late, never once a check that bounced. It doesn't come up, he doesn't ask. He's not being cruel about it, not raising his voice or making a point of it. He's reading a 5-second signal off a piece of paper, and the signal isn't asking about your character, just your job title against some list in his head. You almost mention the 3 years. You don't. You've learned by now that mentioning it just makes the moment longer, not different. Someone at work mentions, in passing, over the sound of the fryer, that the fancy place downtown, the one that turned you away in the rain, is supposedly struggling. Bad reviews, a health inspector visit that didn't go well, a chef who quit mid-shift on a Saturday night without so much as finishing the ticket in front of him. You don't think much of it at the time. You've got your own math to do, your own 3 years of on-time rent nobody wants to see. Level 4, $310,000. Ruth's ready to slow down, so you buy the diner outright. Keep her on 2 days a week as a consultant. Keep her name over the door, because taking it down never once crosses your mind. You have the sign guy touch up the paint instead of replacing it entirely. The same regular who complained about you years ago comes in one afternoon, doesn't recognize you as the same busser he talked past like furniture, and is warm now, chatty, generous tip, calls you chef on the way out, shakes your hand at the register like your old friends who go way back. He wasn't seeing you this time. He was seeing the room you owned. Level 5, $1.1 million. Second location open across town. Your first real estate deal signed. Flying now for supplier meetings instead of driving 4 hours each way with a cooler in the back seat. A gate agent upgrades your seat without you asking, glancing between your boarding pass and your suit in the same motion. Like the two pieces of information already agree with each other, and that's enough to settle it. No further questions needed. Driving to a meeting later that week, you pass the restaurant from the rain, the fancy one, the one with Simon at the door, and there's a for lease sign taped in the front window, hand-lettered, not the kind a real estate company puts up, more like something someone made themselves at a kitchen table. Gone again a week later when you drive past, like someone paid just enough to buy a little more time before the truth catches up to the building. You don't know yet what that sign means. You file it away without meaning to and keep driving, already thinking about the next meeting. Level 6, $6 million. You acquire a small boutique hotel restaurant concept downtown, and inside the industry your name starts meaning something to people who've never met you in person, just seen it on a deal sheet. At a mixer that spring, a man in a slightly too tight suit strikes up a conversation with you near the bar, doesn't recognize you, has no idea who he's talking to. It's Simon, a little grayer, a little heavier through the middle, working the room the way people work rooms when they need something from it without saying so. He tells you, for no reason at all, expecting nothing back, just making conversation the way strangers do at these things, to be careful with a specific linen supplier who's about to lock you into a contract that'll bleed you dry within a year. I got burned by the same guy, he says, shaking his head like it still bothers him, turning his glass slowly on the bar. Nice at the pitch meeting. Numbers get ugly by month 6. It's the exact deal sitting on your desk right now, unsigned, waiting on your signature by Friday. He has no stake in whether you take his advice. He just gives it, the way you'd warn a stranger about ice on a sidewalk before they step on it, and moves on to refill his drink. You don't correct him about who you are, you just say thanks, and mean it more than you expect to, more than you've meant it in a room like this in a long time. Level 7, $40 million. Regional hospitality group now, your name on buildings in 3 states, a title instead of an apron. Ruth's building gets a redevelopment notice that spring, the whole block's getting bought up around her, one storefront at a time. Plywood going up in the windows on either side of the diner within a month of each other. She shrugs it off in front of you at the counter, still wiping down the same stretch of laminate she's wiped down for 30 years, not even looking up from the rag. Rent's rent, she says. I'll figure it out. She has no plan. You can tell by the way she says it too fast, the same way you used to say things were fine, back when they weren't, standing at that same counter with wet hands and a tray. You buy the building that same week through a shell entity with a name that means nothing to anyone who might look it up. Kill the redevelopment deal quietly through 3 layers of paperwork and never mention it to her. She never finds out it was you. The plywood never goes up next door. She keeps wiping down the same counter, same rhythm, same 9 stools, same order memorized for whoever sits down next, like the whole thing never happened. Because as far as she knows, it didn't. You'd spent 17 years building something big enough to fix any 5-second read a stranger could make of you. The only account that ever actually mattered was one you had to keep completely off the books. Level 8, $300 million. A major acquisition puts your name in trade press for the first time, the kind of profile that gets read by people in your own industry more than anyone else. That spring, the restaurant from the rain, Simon's Restaurant, closes for good. No announcement, just a locked door one morning, chairs stacked visible through the glass, mail piling up against it that nobody comes to collect. 3 weeks later, Simon applies for a maitre d' position at your flagship restaurant. He doesn't recognize the name on the ownership paperwork, sits down across the table from someone conducting his interview, straightens his jacket before he sits, and has no idea he's sitting across from the same person he once looked past through a glass door in the rain. His hands are steadier than his voice. You don't ask him much. You don't need to. You watched him do the job once already, from the wrong side of it. You tell him you'll follow up in a few days. You don't tell him which way you're leaning. Level 9, $2 billion. You hire him. Full-time, no probationary humiliation. No mention of a door or a night in the rain, 19 years old enough that it should have stopped stinging by now, and somehow hasn't entirely. He never learns why the interview took exactly as long as it did, or why nobody made him wait for a callback the way most candidates do, sweating it out over a week of silence. He starts the following week, same uniform as everyone else, same schedule. No special treatment either direction, no note in his file about anything at all. That same week, dressed down, unrecognized, in clothes nobody would look at twice, you go back to the corner where all of this started. It's raining again, the same kind of rain, the same kind of night, the same stretch of sidewalk outside a restaurant that isn't even Simon's anymore. New signage, new name. Somebody else's 5-second decisions being made behind that glass now. A stranger's waiting for a bus, with no umbrella, no poncho, nothing between them and the weather, shoulders pulled up against the cold, the exact way yours used to. In a jacket about as thin as the one you had at 23. You take the poncho out of your jacket, the same one, folded the same way it's been folded for 19 years, wrapper gone soft and worn at the creases from every drawer it ever sat in, and hand it over without a word. The same way it was handed to you once, in the same rain, on a night you never got to say thank you for either. You don't wait for them to say thank you. You're already walking, collar up, same rain finding the same gap at your collar it always finds. Same street, different direction than the one you walked in 23. You spent 19 years trying to become someone no stranger could misread in 5 seconds. The only version of yourself you actually liked was the one nobody got 5 seconds to read at all. If you enjoyed this one, tell me the kindest thing a total stranger ever did for you. And don't forget to subscribe for the next one.